Hi, I'm John Watson, and I'm the Executive and Legislative Assistant to Mike Wallace. I work in his Ottawa office, and I spend just about every day with him. Now, Mike, as a Member of Parliament, is a very busy person, and that involves days which start early in the morning and end late at night, and I can testify to that. Now, on the weekends, Mike often heads back to the riding, and because I'm from Burlington, I occasionally go with him back home on the weekends and help out with his activities there. Now, his day-to-day activities in Ottawa are more formal, involve a lot more procedure. For example, going into the House of Commons, participating in the debates, and attending committees, which we do just about 4 days a week. Now, Mike is on two committees, Finance and Access to Information, and those are both very busy and very important committees. Now, as a legislative assistant, one of my duties is to support Mike in his role on committee by doing things like research and making sure that he's well prepared to ask questions of witnesses and know who's coming to testify to the committee, and so he can be better prepared to contribute to that committee. Some of the other activities that Mike has, for instance, right now we're working on a private member's bill, C-279, which has a good chance of becoming law, which we're very excited about because less than 2% of private members' bills, in fact, become law. So what I would typically work on during the day in terms of our private members' bill is to do research. Like, for instance, right now I'm going through the Blues, which is the report of what everyone had to say in the House of Commons on a specific day. The specific day that I'm looking at is when we had second reading of our bill, and we're just coming up to the third reading now. So I'm going through the second reading, and I'm trying to determine what the opposition didn't like about our bill, and when they voice that in the House, I can highlight that and bring it to Mike's attention. So when we sit down and we draft remarks for Mike to make on the third reading of the bill, he can be better prepared to address some of the opposition concerns and help make this bill become law. Steel Caucus is another one of the activities that we're involved in. In fact, right now we're planning for an upcoming meeting of the Steel Caucus. We're going to discuss upcoming business, which involves a trip to Washington, D.C. to meet with our U.S. counterparts, including Congressman Phil English, who is president of the U.S. Steel Caucus, where Mike is chairman of the Canadian Steel Caucus. So in my role in helping Mike and assisting Mike, I do things like liaise with industry officials from the steel business and help Mike deal with their concerns. Finally, I'm involved with helping Mike communicate with his constituents and communicate with you through vehicles like this television show and some of the Upfront newsletters that you've all received in your house, and of course working on the website on a daily basis, which is something that I'm personally passionate about and I enjoy media. And I urge you all to check out our website, mikewallace.ca.
I'm now with Ed Fast, who's a Member of Parliament for British Columbia. Ed is actually just down the hall from me in the Confederation Building. And Ed is also a new Member of Parliament. So I just wanted to talk to Ed a little bit about what it was like to be a new member that was elected in January 23rd, as I was. Ed, thanks for joining me today.
You're welcome.
Tell us a little bit about your riding and what it's like to be a member, not only a new Member of Parliament, but one who's really so far from home.
Well, my riding is the city of Abbotsford, which is basically on the west coast. We're about an hour inland, right on the U.S.-Canada border. Our community is very much a farming community. We are the raspberry capital of Canada, believe it or not, and also very big into blueberries, dairy, and also the poultry industry.
And for you as a Member of Parliament, as a new Member of Parliament, you're obviously, it's tough to get home on weekends. Do you get home every weekend? Do you have a place here? How does it work for you in terms of living arrangements?
I get home almost every weekend. I still have family at home. I'm the father of 4 daughters, 3 of whom are still at home. So I want to make sure I get back on weekends. It's about a 5.5-hour flight, so no easy task, but I try to get it done.
Now, as a new Member of Parliament, like me, you've been assigned to a couple of committees, and is there part of the job that that's been a surprise to that you enjoy more than another, or is there an area that maybe you weren't too sure about when you first got here?
Well, aside from the travel, the other thing that I found was that there's actually more work than I ever expected. Our days are long, probably 14-hour days on average, and yet each hour passes so quickly because there's something new every day. And there's nothing I dislike about the job, but there's an incredible learning curve, which we're still on right now.
Right. We spend a fair amount of time in the house. We have a house duty that at least for one full day each. The other thing that happens that most people are familiar with because it's on the news is question period, which happens between 2 and 3 o'clock every day, 4 days a week, and then a little earlier on Friday. Your impressions of question period, how do you feel about the heckling that goes on, and as a new member, is it something for you to get used to, or were you pretty much aware of it before you got here?
Well, I was aware of it, but it did take some time to get used to, because it's called question period for a good reason. That's because there's very few answers forthcoming. And the heckling, of course, all of us get drawn into that from time to time. And at times it gets out of hand. And I know the Speaker has his hands full trying to keep control of the House. But for the most part, I think people are respectful of one another. And certainly outside of the House of Commons, when we're not in question period, for the most part, MPs do try to cooperate with each other within certain limits.
Now, for me, I was a city councillor for 13 years before I got here, so I had some exposure to politics. Did you have any exposure to political life, or is this brand new for you?
I was a school trustee for 5 years, and then followed that up with 9 years on city council in Abbotsford.
So we both come from the municipal world, and
we do.
So for me, the partisanship was one thing that I've had to get a little bit used to here. How do you feel about the partisanship here on Parliament Hill?
Well, it's quite different than on city councils. I mean, you do get squabbles on city council, but for the most part, at least in my community, we didn't have party politics at the local level, which was very good, because you could make your decisions on an issue-by-issue basis, and there was none of this tension between different factions. Whereas here, of course, in Ottawa, it's quite different, where the party sets the policy, and then we're expected to follow that policy for the most part.
Right. Well, that's my time with Ed. I appreciate you taking the time with me. Ed and I share the hallways. We're all both Conservative members.
Great guy, by the way. Burlington should be very proud of its MP.
I had to pay him for that also. And we've got to know some other MPs who are new on all sides of the House, and we all face basically the same issues in terms of long days away from home and a big learning curve for us new guys on the Hill. But I appreciate you taking the time. Thanks very much. I hope you enjoyed this episode, A Day in the Life of a New Member of Parliament. I want to thank Cogeco for taking the time to put on our show. If you have any questions, comments, or any suggestions for future shows, please call me at my office at 905-639-5757 or contact me through my website at mikewallace.ca. See you next time. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is day 134 of the Liberal Senate's foot-dragging on the toughest anti-corruption law in Canadian history, the Federal Accountability Act. Let's not forget, many of the laws broken by the Liberals in the sponsorship scandal were not discovered until years later. That's why Canada's new government immediately moved to increase the number of years in Election Act violations to be investigated to 5. Unfortunately, Liberal senators have undone this good work by reducing the 5-year limit to 2 years.
Good.
Mr. Speaker, are there other Liberal scandals they're trying to hide? Is the Liberal Senate getting in the way of future investigations into illegal Liberal behavior? Canadians are owed these and many more answers, not to mention the millions of sponsorship dollars still owed to taxpayers by the Liberal Party. It's time for Senate to pass the Federal Accountability Act!